Here he said, based on the text, how would Poterka and Zoo text 2 most likely characterize the conclusion presented in text 1? So what we're going to read first, text 2. Why? To characterize the conclusion in text 1. So thank you. Now, I want to put myself in the shoes of the author of text 1. I'm sorry, on the shoes of the author of text 2, because he said that, to reply to the conclusion in text 1. So I need the point of view here. What he said, past studies of white dwarf atmospheres have concluded that certain exoplanets, take care, dwarf here, I'm not talking about human, I'm talking about planets, conclude that certain exoplanets had continental crusts. Geologist Kes Poterka and astronomer Sizu argue that those studies unduly emphasize atmospheric traces of lithium and other individual elements as signifiers of the types of rock found on Earth. Only they use those two elements. The studies don't adequately account for different minerals. They don't mention different minerals made up of various ratio of those elements, and the possibility of rock types not found on Earth that contain those minerals. Now, we know now, when we are on the shoes of those authors, we know what they are talking about. Let's find how they're going to reply to the conclusion here. How they're going to reply to the conclusion here. Astronomer Mark Holland and colleagues examined 4 white dwarfs, small, dense remnants of past stars, in order to determine the composition of exoplanets that used to orbit those stars. Studying wavelengths of light in the white dwarf atmospheres, the team reported to the conclusion that traces of elements such as lithium and sodium support the presence of exoplanets with continental crust similar to Earth. If you're gonna look here, you are gonna find that text 2 will have a kind of remarkable issue on those conclusions. So let's find, as unexpected, maybe what they said is unexpected, maybe, because it's widely believed at the time that white dwarf exoplanets lack continental crust. No, we didn't say that here. We didn't say that here. The problem in the elements. So it's not A. B, I'm gonna say text 2 is gonna say about text 1 as premature. Maybe. Because researchers have only just begun trying to determine what kind of crust white dwarf exoplanets had, they didn't. They didn't. As questionable, maybe it raised questions, because it rests on an incomplete consideration of potential sources of the elements detected in white dwarf atmosphere. As we said before, that the problem in the elements. The problem in the elements. And it's questionable because it's not complete. Yes. As puzzling is not puzzling from the beginning, because it's unusual to successfully detect lithium and sodium when analyzing wavelengths of light in white dwarf atmosphere. We didn't say that. So the answer is C, as most of you, as all of you said. Okay, let's go to question 9. And question 9 is the function of the underlined sentence. And we are in domain 2. Waiting for your answer. In number 9, he asks us about the function. Which choice best describe the function of the second sentence in the overall structure of the text? And I told you regarding the sub-skill, you have to read a sentence before and a sentence after, but the answer actually is on the underlined part. But sometimes you connect it to what come before and what come after. He said here, astronomers are confident that the star Betelgeuse will eventually consume all the helium in its core and explode in a supernova. Okay, perfect. Second sentence that had we need to get the function for. They are much less confident. They are less confident. However, about what? About when this will happen. This question we solved it many times. Sin that depends on internal characteristics of Betelgeuse that are largely unknown. So again, in the first one, they are confident about the finishing of this star. In sentence number 2, they are less confident about the time. In sentence number 3, astrophysics Sarvania El-Badri Nance and colleagues recently investigated whether acoustic waves in the star could be used to determine internal stellar states, but concluded that this method could not sufficiently reveal Betelgeuse's internal characteristic to allow its evolutionary state to be firmly fixed. So the last sentence, one of the scientists tried to do an experiment to find out the time. So let's find A. The underlined part. It described a serious limitation of the method used by Nance and colleagues. Wait. Nance and colleagues actually start to mention after. Not in this sentence. Nance and colleagues mentioned in the last sentence, not in this sentence. It presents the central finding report by Nance and colleagues. Again, Nance and colleagues start to be mentioned after, not before. It identified the problem that Nance and colleagues attempt to solve but didn't. Yes. So this is the problem, and Nance and colleagues started solving it but they couldn't. So it can be C. It explained how the work of Nance and colleagues was received by others in the field. Here, never mentioned Nance and colleagues. طب ما here never mentioned Nance and colleagues, but it mentioned here in the answer. Because here he said that here he identified the problem that will be solved, didn't solve by them. They're going to try to solve it, but they can't. So the answer is C. Luma, you close your camera. Is it clear? Okay. The function of the underlying sentence. Okay. Let's find. So the function of the underlying sentence, as I told you, you have to connect it to what come before and what come after. But we don't have after. We have before. Okay. No problem. But the right answer is going to be on the underline. The right answer is going to be the underline. And I told you why I'm taking a sentence before and a sentence after. Just to highlight if the question or the answer start to make a connection between what come before and what come after. Here he said, on the bottom of the stream float millions of delicately colored hyacinths. Okay, I don't know what this. You can read up to find out. Let's continue. John Redding loved to wander down to the water's edge and casting in dry twigs, watch them sail away downstream to Jacksonville, the sea, the wide world, and he wanted to follow them. No, I'm with you that there is something missing. Even if I know the answer, there is something missing. I have to read up to understand what the hyacinths and what happened. Because now I thought that there is one is lost. So let's read up. The following text adapted from Zora. This like that is level 3. The following text is adapted from Zora Neale Hurston, 1921 short story. Joan Redding Goes to Sea. Joan is a child who lives in a town in the woods. Perhaps 10-year-old Joan was puzzling to the folk there in the Florida woods, for he was an imaginative child and full of daydreams. The St. John River flowed a scarce 300 feet from his back door. On its banks, at this point, grow numerous palms, luxuriant magnolias, and bay trees. On the bottom of the stream float millions of delicately colored hyacinths. Okay, now I understand. So it's not a lost one? Let's find. So this part about John Redding, he is daydreamer. It provides an extended description of a location that John likes to visit. He didn't say that John liked to visit. Here he said love to wander down to the water's edge and no description. No. It revealed that some residents of Jonestown are confused by his behavior. We didn't talk about any resident here. It illustrates the uniqueness of Jones' imagination compared to the imagination of other children. He didn't compare him to others here. He didn't compare him to others. It suggests that John longs to experience a larger life outside the Florida Watts. We said here that was in Florida Watts. And he go there and they start wandering down the water's edge, casting dry wicks, watch them sail away downstream, Junksville, the sea, the wide world, and he wanted to follow them. So here we know that he longs to experience for a larger life outside the Florida Watts. So the answer is D. Malak, clear?
Clear.
Luma, clear?
Mister, can you explain again?
Again. Here, Luma, when I start reading this part, I found only that there is someone called John Redding that he liked actually to just wander down the water's edges, casting in dry twigs, and start watching them when they are traveling with the river. Traveling where? To Jacksonville. Okay? To the sea. Not only to the Jacksonville, because you know the river ends with the sea or end with an ocean. So stream to Jacksonville, the sea, the wide world, that he wanted to follow them. Clear? I read up only because I didn't understand some part here. I want to know that this man actually is a lost man, or is a boy, as he said here, is the boy that live in Florida, Watts, and he is actually thinking about following these dry twigs to Jacksonville, to the sea, and to the wide world. So it suggests that John belongs to experience a larger life outside the Florida Watts. He wants to go away from his current location. Clear? Luma, clear?
Clear.
Okay. Okay, Hamza. How can we solve the question of the overall structure, Hamza?
Okay. So first of all, we have to read the sentence, right?
Which sentence?
The last sentence.
يا لهوي. يا Hamza.
What was the...
Yeah, Hamza, you forgot how to solve the overall structure? I
No,
told
no.
you that we have a unique way to solving it with an easy one. You got it right. But we're not going to read the last question, يا Hamza.
To be honest, I did kind of guess like the
I
answer.
guess. لا عشان نسينا يا حمزة نسينا. We forgot how can we answer this one. I give you a nice way, Hamza, to solve it. طب let's see Rahaf.
Yes.
How can we solve this question, Rahaf?
The first and last sentence.
Rahaf also forgot.
Please don't tell me wrong.
يا قلبي. والله هيجي لي heart attack خلاص. We said that we have a unique way and we solved it many times. First and last sentence only in the main idea and main purpose. طب let's take Khalid.
ايوه يس
ايوهين يا عم خلص. How can we solve the overall structure?
انا كنت اقول اول واخر واحد.
الله عليكم، الله على المذاكرة، الله. طب مين تاني ما سألناهوش؟ خلينا نشوف ملك.
برضه ال first وال last sentence.
شكرا. ده انا قلت لكم this my unique way to solve the overall structure. طب يا لوما خليك يا يوسف انت شوية. اجبري خاطري يا لوما. satisfy myself. ها لوما.
Yes, Mister.
How can we solve this question?
They're asking
No, I know
for
they are
the
asking about what. I need how we solve this question. Do you remember or not?
Do we read the beginning?
Then
We read the beginning and then the end?
no, thank you, Luma. خسفت بيا الارض يا لوما. طيب
Sir,
يوسف
can
يوسف.
I try
نو نو
again?
جاست ويت راح ويت ندي بقى
Okay.
الفرصه. احمد شهاوي ولا خلي يوسف مجدي.
Before you say it, I feel like most people are confusing overall structure with main idea.
يس.
Because overall structure relies on like reading the the paragraph and trying to understand how each sentence relates to the next.
نو يوسف. طب احنا كده فرصتنا في احمد شهاوي، لا اما كده الناس ما بتذاكرش خالص. احمد شهاوي my unique way to solve this question how is gonna be. شهاوي اداني علامة شهاوي سابني ومشي. Yes,
Mr.
no.
Can I say something else?
Say it.
Do we read the options first?
No. Thank you. الله يسامحكم كلكم. وانا قاعد اتفاخر واقول my unique way والناس قاعده معايا بيسك وخلصوا ودخلوا على البتاع. The overall structure يا واحمد شهاوي سايبني وحاط لي علامه الانتظار. ماشي يا عم احمد. So, how can we solve this question? We read the first sentence. والله 400 مرة عدناها. Read the first sentence only. We read the first sentence only. Then look at the first part of each choice. This will help us to minimize the answers. Read only the first sentence. Then look at the first part of each choice. Do we have parts? والله we have parts. شوف كم parts هنا. ادي 1 2 3 1 2 3 اهو في and then اهي 1 يعني دوت عبارة عن list series. Okay, let's read the first part. He said the North Celestial Pole, NCP, the fixed point around which stars in the northern hemisphere, including the sun, appear to rotate, is discernible only at night. Okay, so the first part, it illustrates how most navigational tools utilize the NCP. Did we talk about tools here? We didn't mention any tools. Thank you. I cancel A. I'm not going to return 2. B. It presents a celestial based method of navigation. Does he talk about navigation here? No. He didn't talk about any method of navigation. So again, I cancel B. So look here. How it start to be easy for me. I didn't talk about method in the first sentence. It explains how the NCP, okay, is typically located. Maybe. It notes an obstacle to observing an astronomical phenomena. Yes, he said discernible. It can be also. So now I'm between C and D. What you're gonna do next? Read the rest of the paragraph. Read the rest of the text. And go to the ones that you don't eliminate it. Inspired by the navigational strategies of some insects and birds, researchers devised a method for locating the NCP in daytime using skylight polarization because it appears at night, which occurs as atmospheric particles scatter sunlight. A polarimetric camera captures images of polarization patterns which rotate at the sun's position in the sky change. Temporal variances across images can then be used to determine an observer latitude and bearing relative to the NCP. Now look at the other parts. Emphasize a key difference between how humans and certain animals use the NCP for navigation. He mentioned birds and insects, but he didn't say that they are different. and then suggest an alternative way of using the NCP to improve existing navigation instrument? No, we didn't talk about instruments. Look now at this part. Mentions a navigational ability of certain animals. Yes, he mentioned bees and birds are using this. The inspired solution to that obstacle, that right, that they can see it in the morning or at day. And then explain how researchers use an optical device. Yes, to mimic that ability. Yes, he said here the camera. Yes, he spoke about the camera. So the answer is D. طبعا انتوا جبتوها صح، بس الواي اللي احنا متعلمينه ما عملتوش صح. I can minimize my time and minimize my effort. First sentence and the first part of each choice. Then you cancel. Then you start looking at the rest for the one that you know eliminated. زعلان منكم يا شباب. The main purpose هي اللي مختلفة. المين purpose هي اللي مختلفة. يلا go to the main purpose. Okay. Here he asks us about the main purpose of the text. So here in level 1, I'm gonna read the first sentence and last sentence, forget about the introduction. If I found that the answers, or we have more than one answer that can be accepted, read the whole text. Here he said was, jazz tap is a dance form that was first developed in African American community. Okay, he talked about the origin of dance. Because of jazz music's influence, jazz tap quickly developed into a dance from that was very different from earlier kinds of tap dance. عارفين الناس اللي بتخبط كده برجليها وهي بترقص؟ اهو ده tap dance. Okay, let's find. It explains why audiences prefer some kinds of music over others. We're not talking about music. This is number 1. We didn't talk about audiences. This is number 2. It discusses the development of a dance form. Yes. Yes. So it can be B. It describes how to play a musical instrument. We never mentioned that in the first and last sentence. It emphasized the popularity of a famous dancer. We didn't talk about any dancer. So the answer is B, as you mentioned. Let's go to number 5. And number 5 now is vocabulary.
Mister, which question do we answer?
They have to revise the vocab. They have to concentrate on. Look here how many questions for vocab? 5. And this is the first module, not the second. Okay. At first, we have to look at each connotation of the choices of the words. Why? Maybe it's level 1 and we're going to use elimination to solve the question. So the first one is called imaginative. And you know the imaginative is based on creativity. So we can say that it's neutral. And take care, whenever we have neutral connotation, we go to the context clue. Whenever we have neutral connotation, go to the context clue. The second one, superficial. Superficial, its meaning means lacking depth. lacking depth. راجل مش عميق. shallowing. بيبص على السطحية بتاعت الأمور. lacking depth. So as you can find here, that it's negative. The word after, exhaustive. Exhaustive. Exhaustive means with a full detail, covering all the details. Positive. Covering all the details. And also it can be mean complete. A questionable here means doubtful. Here means doubtful. So it's negative. Now I have one neutral, so I have to go to the context clue, but I know the meaning of the words. He said, very major archaeological discoveries. We are unlikely. Take care of the word unlikely. Means not. Means not. يعني لو هيجي الكلمة بعدها positive يبقى not positive معناها تبقى negative. طب لو جت negative يبقى not negative يبقى positive. خلي بالك ان not هتغير الكلمة دي. يعني لو دي negative وحطيتها هنا هتبقى positive كده بنot. لو حطيت البوزيتيف هنا هتبقى negative. فاهمين؟ يبقى unlikely to ever have account of ancient Egypt under the female pharaoh's Hatshepsut. As much of the evidence of her reign was deliberately destroyed by her successors. يبقى انا عاوز حاجه هنا نيجاتيف. يبقى انا عاوز حاجه هنا نيجاتيف. يعني مش هينفع دي ولا ينفع دي. يا عم انت قايل مش عاوز حاجه نيجاتيف. ايوه ما انا لو حطيت هنا نيجاتيف هيبقى نوت نيجاتيف معناها بوزيتيف. اهو هكتبها فوق اهي. نوت نيجاتيف equal positive. Not positive equal negative. يبقى انا مش هينفع احط هنا نيجاتيف. I'm sorry. عشان مش هينفع احط هنا نيجاتيف. عشان لو حطيت نيجاتيف هيبقى المعنى بوزيتيف. انا عاوز حاجه نيجاتيف خالص. يبقى المفروض ما بين imaginative و exhaustive. طب هو قال هنا ايه؟ He said what? Destroyed by her successors. So nothing for her. So nothing complete. Nothing cover all details. So the answer is gonna be C. The answer is gonna be C. Clear Khalid?
Yes.
Clear Hamza?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just stop recording.